I have here with me, as always, my friend and co-host, Crypto Ewok. That's right. We are getting low tonight for sure because PulseChain pretty much revisiting all-time lows, which is going to be interesting. We're going to get to that here soon. And, we've been sweeping this low area for a while, but now we've basically touched the previous low in terms of the pulse price. Here today, as the rest of the market continues to recover / not recover, we had some crazy absolute insane sell-offs, liquidations over the weekend that we are going to get to. Obviously, we're a few days late getting into it, but we do this on Wednesdays. We let the dust settle a little bit, and we talk about where we are in these markets, what did Japan just do to the world, and everything else. We got a lot of stuff going on, and that's why the main topic is should we say goodbye to the thought of the crypto cycle? Is the cycle doomed? Is the 4-year cycle a figment of our imagination? And is the crypto bull market already over? We're going to have thoughts on that because there are some valid thoughts out there from some really smart people about what this move this late into the market may mean and just where we've gone, what Bitcoin may need to do by the end of this week in terms of the weekly candle, and Ethereum just absolutely bleeding out of its every orifice, really. So we're going to talk about all that and more. Hit the like on your way in to help support the show and Real DeFi. We appreciate you guys. And shout out everybody in here. We got Crypto Elites a lot of times. Checks my pulse. Shout out to you, DJ and Moonboy. Take a break with Jake is producing the show. Cody Polly, what's up? Ewok, how you feeling this evening? I know you've been a busy man, but you've still seen that the markets are down. So how you doing?
Yeah. I had told you before, man, it's been a crazy busy week at my real job for me. So being a little out of the loop, not necessarily a bad thing when everything's kind of crashing and burning around me. but yeah, so other than that, I mean, I'm doing okay. I see the prices are down. How much worse can it get, right? At this point. So we shall see.
Words.
Yeah, famous last words. I hear people, claiming we've been bottoming, but there's everybody claiming that. So, it makes you wonder, are we? And can it go lower? Well, I guess we'll see.
I guess we will see. And when you say it, I mean, you could be talking about PulseChain, you could be talking about the greater crypto market. I think you're referring specifically to PulseChain. But first, kind of approaching where the market has been. So Sunday is when things really began tanking in earnest. I was at a function, I was at an event, and I couldn't help but find out this information. And I pulled the old phone out a few times, ignored some people I really didn't want to talk to that much to begin with anyway, and just couldn't help but kind of just watch things burn here and there a little bit while I was at this event. But the market did tank Sunday. ETH absolutely just slapped upon the face. Went the whole way down to 2,100 or so on Sunday night. I say the whole way down. I mean, it's only as we're speaking right now. Ethereum's it's moving down again right now. Down 5% on 23.27 is what I'm seeing. We got Bitcoin just under 55K, which that honestly is. I like that it's come up where it's come up off this move, and we're going to get to that a little bit further.
I was going to say, you want me to pull these up?
Go ahead. Yeah, I had minimized my notes. That's why I paused there for a second. I didn't know where they went. We're getting a lot of weird stuff. So we hear about this jump trading entity has been selling off ETH in droves, a very strange site, and it kind of indicate maybe something odd is going on with them. But they're one of the entities that have been selling Ethereum off a whole bunch. Bitcoin on the weekend did go below 50K. We saw it get down into the 49s. Japan basically bankrupt overnight, shuts off trading on Sunday into Monday. U.S. trading platforms shut down on Monday too. Fidelity, Vanguard. I'm not talking about your rinky-dink outfits or anything. I'm talking about the heavy hitters shutting down on Monday. The thoughts are out there. Are emergency rate cuts coming in the United States? We already have like a 98% chance that we're going to see it in September. I think that pretty much cemented itself at 100 here. It's just how many? 25, 50, 75, 100? I don't know. But now we're talking, hey, this week we could even see rate cuts. Who knows? Emergency rate cuts from the Fed. And then there's the question, politically, and we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about all this too, because it is going to influence the response to all this in markets. How does this look for Kamala and Democrats right now? She just picked a VP. And what are they going to try to do to stop it? Because now you're heading into the biggest election of our lifetime. And you've got 3 months basically, and the world economy looks like it's crap, and people are talking recession left and right. A recession is definitely, going to be coming, but it's just how long will they continue to kick the can down the road, print more money, and as we know, they always will, which is why we're in this space to begin with. Obviously, Trump can make this look good for him. Let's start anywhere you want to with all those thoughts. I have even more that we'll follow up with after this, but yeah, let's look at the charts and let me know what you think about what at least Bitcoin and then Ethereum, maybe how they've looked to you here over the last few days.
Yeah, well, so starting with Bitcoin, it looks like it really almost hit this one. Like, I have a lot of these lines drawn, which are, I think, crucial levels to me that I thought was important. And this one at about 47,875, it almost wicked off of that, and it bounced right back up. So we're above the 52,600 level right now. So I mean, it has pulled back, it has corrected a little bit. As far as Ethereum goes, these I had drawn in earlier, way earlier, weeks and weeks ago, and we had gotten above it. But it's funny because now we are settling right back into that zone again. So this narrowing channel here, it's going to be interesting because it's getting to be the time to shit or get off the pot. One of the two. It's due to either skyrocket up or keep going lower. So I think we'll know something here within the next these are weekly candles. So let's break this down to see if I can see on the daily if it changed much. Not really. Yeah, I mean, you're looking at probably within 10 days, we should know if it stays within this channel, it's got to do something. So that's kind of exciting.
Yeah.
So the one thing I did was just looking through some of these is look how well gold has held up. I'm very surprised at this, the gold chart. So, I mean, it really only pulled back a little bit here and it's stayed up there. So that's kind of interesting, I find.
Well, Peter Schiff has been, the guy to follow in terms of finance, I think, for the last 30 years.
Sure.
So I'm not surprised by this.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at this ratio here. Yeah. Wow. The ETH Bitcoin ratio just
bad.
Really bad. Yeah. Really bad. It dipped the whole way down to 0.03. Well, it's 0.04 right now, but it dipped the whole way down to 0.035 here.
That is insane.
36. We are pulling back. So, I mean, it is gaining some back, but yeah, we're back to 0.041, it looks like. But
I did not know it wicked that low. Real bad. Yeah. No, I mean, that was crazy volatility on Sunday night. So, I mean, anything can happen on a wick, but still, where ETH is sitting against Bitcoin is horrid right now. And it's been a tale of the year. I mean, we've talked about it all year long. I mean, Bitcoin's been the one to kind of go and literally nothing else seemingly doing anything, especially Ethereum, which is the big kahuna that we've all kind of been waiting for. One good sign, you would just kind of mention this, Ewok, with Bitcoin, though. I love this idea. Like, if we do rally up above, I think 52K is where the weekly super trend has been, basically. If we can stay where we are now, if it continues to rally and just stick here in the mid 50s or something like that, by the end of the week, I think that pretty much confirms that we're like still on the right path and everything. And this is like a short-term temporary thing. And it would be awesome too, because we're now seeing, for anybody who wasn't around for like the entire bear market or hadn't experienced a bear market before, we're really seeing people come out of the woodwork on Twitter and stuff like that, like traders, influencers, whatever, that are back to like doom bearish posts, like stuff that you would see at the bottom of the bear market where it was like, there's this weird thing with bearish people I've noticed, and I think we've talked about this before, Ewok, where it doesn't work the opposite way with bullish people. Bullish people, you're just interpreted to be a dumbass. Like, I think because crypto's down for the majority of the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah. I think perpetual bullish people always seem dumb to people. Whereas perpetual bear people, it's like, oh, they know something I don't. Like, oh, they're, it's as if they're smarter or something like that. But we're seeing them come out of the woodwork again saying, oh, no, you have no idea what's to come and all this. And the top is already in for the cycle and everything. And all these people that, you would normally see like at the bottom of the bear market are coming out now. And I just think it'd be so fantastic if we do see BTC kind of strongly come back from this random, deep wick down and just kind of slowly come back up, which is it's what it's done so far.
Yeah.
But I want to see it continue. So what do you make of that?
Yeah, no, I think we were expecting a pullback, and that was pretty substantial. We kind of thought it would get down to like 45,000, I think at one point. But 49 is just almost as close. You can't get these things exact. So, I would say that's pretty much confirmed or close enough anyway. It's like Richard Hart calling the $11,000 Bitcoin and it got to 15. Well, pretty damn close. So I think
I was doing the math on that the other day. That is actually 35% off. So I don't know how close that really is, but anyway, I was just thinking about that the other day. But
once you're that low, yes, the difference is. But again, maybe they have printed so much money that it doesn't go that low.
He did say that too. So
yes,
yeah.
So
if you say anything, you can be right.
Well, if you say anything, you can be right. So and I think again, this lower level here of the last dip kind of, it did we got a lower low. So I don't know, is it done yet or not? We'll have to wait and see, because there's the chance that it could do another lower low yet. If this trend holds true, until we get a higher low of a dip, then we're really not going to be confirmed. So it's a wait and see type of game, as always. Wish the crystal balls were for sale. We would we'd be rolling in it.
Well, we got to call up Nagabo for that. But I hope that Bitcoin continues on this trend back up. I mean, right now we are coming down some, but it's over 55 right now. I want to see it hang out in that area. Yeah, ETH continuing to look terrible in comparison, but you figure like the ETF just launched. You look at the timetable that it took Bitcoin to kind of come up after the ETF launch. Want to give it more time to get back up there. And to your point about what we were saying, how we were talking for a while about thinking that Bitcoin would get back into the 40Ks. We were even saying high 30s at one point months ago. I think some of those numbers kind of changed a little bit, because we were talking about that like a quarter ago. Now here we are approaching the fall. So it's kind of like, the goalposts shift a little bit, because it's like,
sure, due to the time, right?
Exactly. So it's like, well, I don't know that we're going to go back that low. So going back down to that 49 area, if that is all it does, we don't know for sure. But if that is, that could be what we had been waiting for a while,
Yep.
To your point about Japan, that I find just interesting. We won't spend a lot of time on this because I don't think people care too much, but just to kind of paint the picture for you, they were the catalyst for this. And again, basically went bankrupt overnight over the weekend. The Bank of Japan. So this is really interesting. And I found this out today. We were just talking about it off air. So in 30 years, they haven't really done anything to mess with the interest rates. They hike interest rates just recently for the first time, again, in 30 years. And this happens. We have this kind of, and maybe you can describe it if you want again real quick, but just this coalescence of like all these events basically that culminate in this disastrous financial situation. I think Japan's stock market was down 6% in a day, basically, or something like that, which that sounds like nothing to us, but whatever. But they're pivoting already. They're going to start printing money and everything, like on a dime, stop, do a 180 right after this emergency happens. So we're seeing this slowly start to trickle in from the United States already. You were talking about the buyback of T-bills and stuff, but what do you make of this? I mean, it seems like the world economy is ready to just say, like, turn on the money printer again. And again, it's why we're in this market. So, what do you make of these?
Well, we can kind of just hit it real quick, like what exactly happened to cause this. And, the first thing was that the Japanese yen was basically 0% to borrow for 30 years, right? For the longest time, you could borrow the yen at zero interest. Then the conversion rate into US dollars was also kind of favorable as well. So people would borrow yen, get it into USD, and then buy yield assets, and then pay back their money because it was zero. And the conversion rate was favorable to do so. Three things happened. The interest rate was no longer zero. the conversion rate went not in favor anymore, and the yield bearing assets were no longer bearing as much yield. So those three things was like an instant bad leverage play, so to speak. So people kind of got back out of stuff, sold off, went back in to pay off things at a loss, and had to sell assets to do so. And that's why the whole trickle down in the economy just kind of it tumbled, because you have that many people basically closing leverages all at once. It's gonna create a bearish momentum that you kind of can't stop. It's a snowball effect that once it gets rolling, it's hard to get it stopped. So like you said, they basically said, okay, whoa, we're not gonna charge interest anymore. We're gonna back off on that. So they got it stopped quickly, which is, it's funny how quickly they got it stopped when our government just doesn't understand. They've got to play with it, and they've got to make sure that the unemployment does this and this does that. And it's kind of funny how the difference of the governments can kind of create an outcome, and how ours is just messing around with things to the nth degree to see what all they can break.
Yeah, for sure. And that said, I mean, I think we're definitely going to see huge moves from the United States here, obviously, especially again, as the election does loom only 3 months away. I think they're going to be doing something to try to incentivize people to get out there and spend money again and stuff like that. So, it remains to be seen. And then I just saw something earlier, didn't read too deeply into it. It just came out, but Kamala and all these Dems are launching some kind of pro crypto thing. It's probably just something that's fake that they're just calling it that in name, but they're going blow to blow with Trump in terms of pretending that they support crypto. So, I mean, that's good for us. It's good for, I mean, I don't think that anything real is going to come of it. And I don't think they have any interest in crypto whatsoever, obviously. But it is good that it's at least like in the consciousness. They are talking about it and everything. And, maybe something comes of that anyway, So, anyway.
Yeah, I don't know much about it. But again, a lot of times political, this time of year, their advertisements tend to talk about a lot of things that interest people, and then they turn around and do none of them. So,
yeah,
we shall see.
We shall. Let's move over to PulseChain real quick. So, the narrative really around Pulse with this huge dip that we've seen over the weekend is, and you can kind of see it just reading the tea leaves, like especially because Bitcoin and Ethereum were just dropping like lead balloons, basically. PulseChain wasn't really. It was kind of just hanging out, maybe, slightly trickling down. Then actually late Sunday, it rallied in comparison. Like while ETH was, barely at 2,000 anymore, Pulse was actually rallying a little bit. And UI and some other folks were talking about it. And it's like, well, I mean, we're already ravaged to hell. You know what I mean? We've already been here. This is a double bottoming for Pulse. We've already been way down here. And you'd love to say that sellers have to be exhausted at this point and there's none left and everything like that. I've learned on this show and in this market and in life really to not pretend I know anything or make any guarantees or because they'll just be broken, of course. But you would certainly think all the things I just said. And we hadn't seen that kind of similar bearish action on Pulse. We did see it get back into the threes today, or the other day, even 4 zeros and a 3.8 or 3.7, I think it went down to. And then today we pretty much did revisit already, or are on the precipice of revisiting the exact lows of August a year ago, August of 2023. I distinctly remember them. I remember waking up in the middle of the night to go down and try to buy. And that's kind of where we are now. So we got Pulse at 4 zeros and pretty much a 3.5. It looks like some buyers kind of stepped in when we dipped below this about 2-3 hours ago. I saw doesn't mean they'll stick around. Pulse X is just dipped under 2, so it's at 4 zeros and a 197. Incentive is under $2 now, $1.90. Hex, I don't know if this is a new all-time low or it was very close to it anyway, but 00437. And EHEX is lost to 0, so it's at 0009959, but it's basically at a tenth of a penny there. So here we are again. We're at the bottom. Now, one thing that's very interesting, and I said this to you and our other friend the other day, it's funny because a lot of people, if you remember a year ago and you were looking at your portfolio USD value, you may notice today, as long as you've continued to DCA or not do anything weird or anything like that, that your portfolio is kind of up rather significantly from wherever it may have been when Pulse was at its lows before. And a lot of that is because Pulse X is about a 2x up from where it was the last time this was happening. Pulse X, few may remember, had another zero on the front of it when we had Pulse at these prices right now.
Yeah.
So that's incredible. And I think that's what's really something that's cool is holding everything up. But either way, we're down here again, double bottoming. We've been in this range for a while. What do you think? I mean, do you think we go lower? How long you think we stay here? We certainly don't want to be closing at these numbers too often. But what do you make of this, Ewok?
Well, I mean, I see the levels being kind of protected. I don't know. Until it breaks through this bottom of the 3301-ish area, that's I think the last very bottom that we had. Pretty much 4 zeros, 3,300, pretty much. As long as that level gets protected, I don't know. I don't think so. I think a lot of people have that level set with buy orders. I think there are still some sellers that have weekends. I don't know that we've shaken everybody out yet, or otherwise we'd be going up. I mean, I know there's there's people trying, right? You see this whole series of candles here. There was a lot of buys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 days in a row. We only had one red candle. So, there is bullish sentiment there. And I think this is just traders that are trying to play the game because we're not ready to go up yet. So I don't think so. I think this is pretty much like that. Like I said, that 3,300 level should be the bottom, but of course I say that and it'll bust right through it. So
yeah.
It looks like it's fairly well defended. So we can hope that trend stays. The one that did kind of go down the most, I think, is probably incentive, right?
I think you're right. Yeah,
that was close to $3, and we're down to $1.89 now. So, let's take a look at that chart real quick. I just want to see kind of what happened here, because again, I said I've been out of the loop the last. That was a nice cascade here from what August. Oh, these are 15-minute chart. Hang on, let me get the daily here. I was like, why is that so? I mean, well, from the 2nd through today, which is 5 days of a lot of down. So,
Yep. Well, it's taken a beating a bit, but not cleared that other most recent bottom zone anyway. So but it has seen some.
Nope, that bottom zone was about $1.70, $1.71 for this local bottom here. So again, as long as we don't make a lower low, and this one can run pretty quickly. There's easily enough people that can buy this up. If there's not an OA involved with the incentive token, and I think there's enough liquidity in there to allow it to run fairly fast too when people start jumping on board. So again, if we don't hit that $1.70, $1.71 mark, I think we'll hold here too. But
yeah, I would think that would make sense as well. I'm hoping that we just hang out at these prices. Obviously, I don't want to make any guarantees, of course. It's not like we know anyway, but it'd be nice to pretty much just hang here and continue to DCA. I mean, I feel like we can probably be paid, not that you have to necessarily rush to get into these prices or anything, but maybe be patient here for a little while and get in at these. And, it depends on the kind of investor you are. I mean, if you want more of a confirmation from BTC and ETH here by the weekend or something like that, I would understand it. I'm the type of person that, when I have cash coming in and the prices are still auto buy prices, it's hard for me to not buy. You know what I mean? Like especially here right now. I mean, we're literally a calendar year on from the previous all-time low, and we're here again. I mean, like I'm going to buy that. If it goes down 20%, okay. I mean, that has happened to me maybe infinite amount of times. So I don't think there's
Right.
ever been a time where I bought and the price went up. So yeah, I mean, it's just, but yeah, just however you want to DCA into this market. But yeah, I think we'll probably hang out here for a bit. I don't know. I'm not sure about time, but we want to. The thing is, there's just so much volatility right now. We want to see where the greater crypto market kind of goes. Especially ETH. I mean, we want to see if it starts to recover here. So,
Yeah.
what do you make of like some people are like, oh, an OA affiliated wallet that bought 170,000 ETH at about 3,800 or so. It was down what 40% or so on that trade or something like that. I mean, I'm curious what your thoughts are. I know you don't share the same kind of panic as people that say that or anything like that. But what do you make of that with a wallet affiliated, obviously with PulseChain, that sacrifice money basically went in to buy Ethereum, 170,000 ETH. And yeah, I think the cost basis is right around 3,800. So what do you make of the cost basis for that being so far down and the bad timing of that buy of Ethereum?
I'm not in the least concerned. I don't think so that it has a lot to do with it. But you know what this dip really reminds me of is the COVID dip that we saw in April of that year.
Was going to mention it in our earlier conversation. I totally forgot. So go
yeah,
ahead.
and I did
Yeah.
too. I did
Yeah.
too, and it really reminds me of that. And I think we all know what happened right after that. It didn't take long before things really started to take off. And obviously, like you said, this is always a great time to DCA. But I'm not concerned about that. We know that we don't know who holds that wallet, but we know the people that are surrounded by it have long-term vision, right? That I don't think there's any time frame. I saw Sai post something the other day, but he's like, people need to understand that trades are supposed to happen quickly. And I don't know that that's true, because think about all the people that got into Bitcoin early, right? We talked about this last week. How many of those would have rather made a trade quickly, made a couple $100, or held on to it long term and possibly made themselves millionaires, right? So I don't know that that's true, and I think that mentality can really wreck you trying to get in and out of markets. It's all about time frame. So I don't. I'm not worried about it. I'm not in. I mean, yeah, I'm not in any hurry. I think we've got another year until things really start to pop off. And for those who want to rush it, you're only going to end the cycle sooner. So, kind of decide what you want. And I think that's the problem. People are conflicted with what they really want. They want it to go up, but if we go up that much now, again, it's a shortened cycle, and it won't last into it's not healthy. So we've got to have these pullbacks. We've got to get rid of the weekends. We've got to wash the people out in order to make it run like it needs to run. And that's kind of where we're at. But again, I'm not overly concerned with that buy. I don't really care.
Well, you just said another thing about if you try to rush the cycle, it's going to end earlier, however you put it. But like another thing is, if you try to rush it, you're going to suffer. I mean, like more than anything, like this is a market. Like you are a participant in it. You're a very small participant in it, and you do not control its ebbs and its flows and where it goes or anything. And I've been really intrigued with this idea recently of outcome independence with anything that you're dealing with in life, which is easier said than done. I mean, imagine like just saying like, oh yeah, don't, you have to just be independent of whatever the outcome is. Like, don't stress whatever the outcome is and don't be focusing on it. Well, if there's something that you're dedicating like your whole life to and all of your thoughts and all your investments and you're constantly thinking about it and everything, it's very difficult to divorce your thoughts from what your goals are, what you want the result to be, when it's going to happen and all that. But the point is to focus more so on the process, because if you're thinking about like a specific time frame and I've got to get to this X amount of dollars in my portfolio and it has to happen by this date, inherently, and I mean, I'm speaking from experience, I am totally guilty of this, and I'm sure we all are. you're going to make subpar decisions because you're thinking that you're going to have to rush things and stuff like that. You're going to think, you're exactly what you just said, making short-term trades to try to compensate for what you think you're losing by just sitting here doing nothing.
Yeah.
But sometimes it just has to come to you. So it's really, really hard to do. But to try to shed away the thoughts of, I've got to do this amount by this day, and if that doesn't happen, I'm going to be pissed. Well, go ahead and be pissed, because that is what's going to happen, and you are going to suffer. You're probably going to make suboptimal decisions, and it's very difficult, but try to focus on the process instead. And if there's really no action to take in terms of whatever the thing is in your life you're thinking about, whether it's investing in crypto right now or whatever, you got to turn your attention elsewhere and just start focusing on something else in the meantime, and let it come to you. I mean, there are scenarios where, hey, I mean, maybe we see something. This isn't my primary scenario, but, Axis has talked on this show before, and other people have said it as well. What if it's the first quarter of 2026? What if we do get something really weird here? What if Bitcoin doesn't recover right now, and we actually have 8 months of sideways into 2025, and 2025 is not what we all have been thinking this whole time? I'm not saying that that's going to happen. I don't think it's the most probable scenario, but it could happen. So let's just sit back. If you are fundamentally happy with what you're investing in, you believe in Richard Hart, the things that he's created, PulseChain, Hex, everything else, PulseX, all that stuff. Sit back, relax, DCA how you want to, and stop focusing so much on the outcome and exactly when it's going to happen by.
Yeah. I think sideways markets can shake out people just as much as dips, honestly, because they get bored. You know what I mean? People need that adrenaline or that dopamine hit when things go up, and when they're not getting it, they try to. Somebody made a comment back here that kind of made me think of that said Axis, saying that, I think he meant PulseX is the unicorn, ape into ink, and then swap to PulseX, unless PLX is something different that I'm not aware of. But
no, I'm sure he probably means PulseX.
But again, that kind of behavior can also get you wrecked, because a lot of times you make the wrong choice. You end up with less than you had before because you tried to play a ratio or tried to play a swap, things like that. People get bored. And they start doing stupid things, and it usually just doesn't turn out well. You're usually better off just pick some coins, some DCA, put a little bit in, red candle, buy a little bit. I saw Cody Pauly mentioned that it's 7 days to transfer from Coinbase. Well,
right.
It sucks when you're not ready. I mean, I understand a lot of people have expended their dry powder, so trying to get new money in sometimes sucks. I know, when I'm in a hurry, crypto.com is one that is pretty instant. Now there is a 3% fee. With Coinbase, you can do it pretty much no fee if you buy into USDC through your bank account. But again, then you got to wait 7 days. So, does that 3% affect a whole lot? $100 buy cost you $3? Not really. You know what I mean? So it's almost worth it to have it instantaneously rather than wait if you really want to do something and you want to catch some lows. So, I was able to catch a couple of those Ethereum dips. I bought a little bit. The one that I saw that was down, and then the next day it went down even further, and I got a little bit more. So, I think I caught the 22 or 23. I think I don't remember, one of the two, but yeah. So again, sometimes sideways markets will definitely shake people out as well.
DJ and Moonboy, I think this is what we all prefer to do ultimately. Yeah. FOMO after 3 days of a big run, and G'd at the end of the hard sell off. Yeah. That's pretty much what we're most accustomed to doing. But, and I'll make a devil's advocate for you. You were just talking to Cody Pauly. I've had that Coinbase thing happen before too. Hey, Coinbase's little delay has saved me from, it's helped me DCA here and there, actually. Like sometimes it's put my, funds on hold, and it's like, oh, okay, I just had a 25% dip right after buying. So, and then I put, the next round of cash in, and then it dips another 25%. So, it just keeps on going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I know a couple states, Fast Abdul, have been approved. I don't know that it's the entire market quite yet. I haven't seen an announcement. Then again, I've been out of the loop a little bit, so correct me if I'm wrong. I thought it was only Texas, Florida, and Montana, maybe, or something like that. But yes, we are very excited for Coast to get their onboarding back to the United States and back up and running like it was.
Definitely. Yeah, I know you were huge into using them, and everybody wants them back up and running, and
Yeah.
really good to help onboard new folks too. So, great stuff. Hey, this chat is insane tonight. So, thank you guys for being here. Shout out everybody in the chat. We appreciate you. We do the show every Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hit the like if you are enjoying it, and you are welcome. Spicy Loops, thank you for streaming. The markets suck right now, absolutely. And that's a big thing. Sometimes I doubt like what we're doing or never what other people are doing. It's always like self-doubt, but like you have like, well, is the show really adding anything or, something like that. And it's like many times people need to commiserate and you just need a nice view of what is happening with the overall market. Some people, as you've been so busy the last few days, Ewok, people don't have time to constantly check in. And when you can check in and just kind of commiserate, see what other people are feeling, there's a lot of value to that. So appreciate you, Spicy Loops, and everybody else in the chat here tonight. Let's turn our attention here. We do have some really good topics coming up. So I don't want to keep harping on what's going on with BTC and the cycles right now, but we did name the stream like, are the cycles now invalidated? So this really did feel like a reactionary thing to say. However, if you consider the source, it was hard to take it not seriously. But I don't know if you know who Kobe is, Ewok, but Kobe,
Yeah, I know.
been around. Yeah, so he's been around for years on Twitter, obviously, and within crypto and everything like that. And he literally was talking about the idea of like, maybe we have it wrong with crypto cycles and stuff like that. We should be more focused on like risk on versus risk off environments and forget the idea of a 4-year cycle and all these different things. And it was thoughtful, and I think it was being serious, but it also seemed kind of reactionary on a really, really bad day, which I think the best of investors and traders are capable of doing, But do you, I will just ask directly, I mean, do you think this little event, does it shake your confidence in the 4-year cycles? Or at the very least, maybe we shouldn't look at them with such a concrete lens. I mean, we have them, it's such a, if you're within crypto and know anything, it's kind of like just it's common knowledge, the 4-year cycle. Like everybody knows what they are, and it's pretty much gospel at this point. But if they aren't invalidated, what could this sudden black swan tank that we just had mean for the future time frame of this cycle anyway? And how could things possibly change? So I guess first off, do you think cycles have been invalidated? Could they be someday? And do you think maybe Kobe's just kind of overreacting here, though?
I think Kobe's overreacting. I think he's probably being emotional. Remember, trading's not supposed to be emotional. You're supposed to remove emotions from a lot of this stuff. People find it hard to do that. They're also probably looking for views, man. The markets are down. It's bad. People, I don't think that people wouldn't do just about anything for likes and views and interaction. So I don't think the markets are invalidated at all. Could they be eventually? Well, it's possible. We have to remember why the 4-year cycle exists in the first place. So kind of dig down into that. It's all because of the Bitcoin halving, right? It's the supply shock. It's the change in how much supply is hitting the market. How does that affect people? People know it's coming. So therefore that whole cycle is revolving around that. That could eventually change, right? When we get another couple halvings, I think it becomes less of a supply shock when you go from I think we're at 3 now. We went from 6 1/4 to 3 1/8 or something like that per block. In a couple more, you're going to be at 1.5, and then you're going to be at 0.75. Well, what the difference between 0.75 an hour and 0.35 or 38, whatever it is, an hour or per block? What's the difference really? So I think as time goes on, that 4-year cycle could just kind of get out of whack. Plus the markets tend to become efficient over time, right? I think somebody that I know said that. I think you're muted. So, but
As a great man once said.
yeah, a great man once said that. So I think eventually, yes, that we could kind of get away from that. You get institutional people buying up Bitcoin now, and hopefully they'll be buying up Ethereum soon. Where's it at? I'm not sure. I think there's a lot of OTC stuff happening because we're not privy to it. There's no price. I think they're really loading up OTC is what's going on. So yes, eventually I think the 4-year cycle could kind of go by the wayside. You're still going to have ebbs and flows. It's just not going to be as easy to call. And who knows, this may be the start of that. We got a lot of people saying this one could be extended a little bit into 2026. We're going to have to wait to see how long that actually takes before we have the data to say, well, no, it's still the same, guys. And, everybody's emotions are just out of whack. That's all it is.
Right.
People tend to do weird things. They think it's different when it's really not different. It may have a different rhythm, but it's still got the same rhyme, so
yeah.
No. So I don't think so. What was your next question?
Well, basically, like, if that's not the case, how could this it is kind of a black swan event. I mean, I think black swan gets maybe overused, but I mean, this was out of nowhere. And like you said, I mean, you even compared it to the COVID dip. So,
Well, that was a
maybe
black swan too, right?
exactly. That's what I'm saying. So, and actually, because we were going to talk about that to lead off the show and we kind of forgot, why don't you compare the feeling of this to that COVID one? Now, obviously, the COVID one came with a whole bunch of other crap that we dealt with for a while, but talk about what that felt like, the quick turnaround, like you talked about, but it was still absolute shock, panic in the market. But compare the two, and then what I was saying is, like, could this event still change this cycle's time frame? Like, because I was kind of thinking, maybe it pushes us deeper into 2025, maybe it flips the calendar into 2026, which wouldn't really be that absolutely crazy or anything. But I really would like to get your thoughts on, like, comparing this to the COVID dip of 2020, though.
Well, so I think the big difference was, and DJ Moonboy wants me to shave my beard off so that everything rockets, by the way. But I think the big difference was we were at a different point, right? Especially with Hex, because that's kind of what was in the process of launching right when that happened. We were developing such a close core, tight-knit community at that point. Everybody was home. Everybody was online. We were all making friends in our streams and getting to know each other. And the community was growing and bonding. And it was not only that, but once COVID happened, they started printing money, sending everybody checks. Well, everybody used those checks to buy crypto. I think that's really what happened. And they had the extra cash flow to do that. Now, if that were to happen now and they say, well, I guess we need a bunch of votes. Here's a bunch of money. I think everybody would do the same thing. I really think the effect would be the same, but I don't think we're going to get the money printing quite yet, only because is that a bird that I hear?
Yeah, it is. I didn't think that was that. I have windows open, so
Okay.
yeah, I
No
didn't
worries.
realize
No
it was
worries.
that loud. Go ahead.
I'm like,
I'll mute while you talk.
no, you're fine. But so where was it? Oh yeah, I don't think we're going to get the money printing. I don't think we're going to get that part of it, and we are essentially, we're on our own at this point. We've got to rally the troops, and I think you need more people pushing this. And people are so bored right now that I think they're afraid to tell their friends or tell their neighbors. And that's where we were with Hex. Is we were excited. We were excited to tell people. We were still onboarding, and it was crazy. And I think that's why Bitcoin dumped and Hex went crazy, because we were still at it, man. We were building a community. We were so excited about this new thing. And I think that's why we had a different outcome than what we may have now. And like I said, time is just, it's not on our side. Well, I mean, it is on our side. We're on the right side of it. It's just a matter of waiting. So you're muted.
goddamn bird. Um, yeah, that's the whole thing. Like, you have to make time your friend. Like, time can be on your side if you make it on your side. It's kind of that whole thing I was talking about earlier. I mean, if you're going
Yeah.
to try to force it and everything, it's not going to work for you, compared to just working with it. So, um, but that is good insight to know that, I mean, like, yeah, we could come up out of this like real quick. It was such a violent move down. People forget because basically it hasn't done it for 4 goddamn years. But crypto can also go the opposite way in the up direction. So, you just have to wait for that to happen and DCA and live your life basically. So, good stuff there. Again, great stuff in the chat tonight. Everybody going back and forth and helping each other out also, which I like to see. I see people like swapping ideas for stuff like that. So good stuff too. We got to talk about this real quick. So Eric Trump just the other day, and I doubt you saw too much of this. I think I sent it to you. I can't even remember at this point, but Eric Trump, the hated son, retweeted also then by Don Jr. Eric, actually, I did send you the bookmarked tweet. If you could bring it up, I forgot. I just sent it to you a little bit ago. But there is something going on with these little Trump boys. Now, not Barron. I don't know what he's getting into. You would think of all of them, Barron would be the big crypto guy. He's a young gun. I know I booked. Oh, there it is. Okay,
I got it.
So here's what I find interesting about this. And I saw Nuclear Herb say this too. So it gave me even more confirmation bias, kind of. But Eric Trump says, I have truly fallen in love with crypto/DeFi. Stay tuned for a big announcement at Trump, at real Donald Trump, at Donald Trump Jr. What I was so intrigued by is that he said DeFi. Like, we're not even really hearing people talk about DeFi anymore. Like, DeFi was last cycle, Hex, Phantom had a great ecosystem. Like, I think Synthetics was a big thing that, obviously Terra Luna. There was a lot of like these crazy DeFi things going on last cycle. People aren't really talking about DeFi or even understand what it is anymore. And I just find it interesting that like Eric Trump's not just talking about Bitcoin. He's not just talking about crypto. He specifically mentioned DeFi, which I'm really intrigued by. DJ Trump Jr. retweeted this and said something positive too. I didn't save that one, but he kind of filled in the blanks a little bit. I think there's some other news, if you dig a little bit, about what this could potentially be, but it sounds like something big is coming. We don't know exactly what it is. I'm sure it's not some kind of bullshit like token launch. That would just be horrible, and I highly doubt that's what it is. I think it's something, though, obviously dealing with DeFi. And it's funny because I said to you, I think, or I put in my notes, like some of the comments, it's funny because they're saying like, no, Bitcoin is the answer. Yeah, there's all these people, no, you misspelled Bitcoin and all these people like that. It's like, dude, once again, markets tend to become efficient over time. I mean, it doesn't matter if So you can think it's just Bitcoin all you want to, but here you go. You got the son of the next president, former president, saying that he's all about DeFi. So very, very interesting. I don't know what this could be, but it's another feather in the cap of potentially voting for another Trump regime. Do I think Donald Trump knows a lot about crypto? No. Do I think Donald Trump cares a lot about crypto? I'd say maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
Primarily I think it's that he wants to get votes, but he is a businessman. I mean, like, people forget. I totally understand. Yeah, you can get lost in the weeds on like, hey, the guy wants votes or whatever. We totally get that. It's just like Kamala trying to appeal to like different races and stuff like that and everything like that. But with Trump, he is a businessman, and while I'm sure he doesn't understand the intricacies of DeFi or anything, and maybe never will. I'm sure he wants some loose understanding of it and to be involved in it in some way, and he's got sons to help him out with that as well. So, yeah, what do you make of this? I guess we'll kind of slowly figure out what this is going to be, but I do love seeing this from them, and it shows they at least have some semblance of an idea what they're talking about. So.
Well, yeah, I think it's bullish. I think it's very bullish for the long term of it. Trump even had mentioned something about having a U.S. reserve, right? Which I know they have a reserve now, but it's all confiscated money. Well, if they hold on to it, they can probably pay off a lot of their debt with it eventually. And he was even mentioning things like that. We could pay off a lot of the debt that we have as a country. He's seeing other countries be successful with it. And I think that's part of it as well. He's also, like you said, a very good investor. He's invested in things, real estate, whatever it is. He knows what appreciating assets are. I'm sure he knows how to look at a chart. And when you see that growth over time, it's pretty much up only. So yeah, I think, is he in love with crypto? I don't know. Probably not, like you said.
Right.
But he is aware of it, and he knows that it's powerful. He's not afraid of it. He doesn't want to hinder it like the Elizabeth Warrens of the world. So um, there's a big difference, a glaring difference when you look at it that way. Is don't stifle it, but let it grow and support it, because it is technology. It is a sector that we can embrace and probably profit off of if it's done correctly. So yeah, I'm all in favor of them supporting it. And again, even if the Democrats want to support it too, great. Like that's what we're doing, right? So we hope that both parties will eventually accept this and move on and stop protecting their bank buddies. The bank
Yeah.
buddies make enough money as it is. They're getting their cut. Let us have ours too. So that's where I'm at on it, and I'm excited. I'm excited.
Yeah, I am too. And yeah, the thing is, like, crypto should not be a bipartisan issue. I mean, that's the whole point of it, kind of. But of course, that's anybody that tries to make a one where they're actively against it. I mean, that's just automatically. It doesn't mean I'm going to like be hard on for the other party or anything like that, because God knows there's plenty of corrupt, messed up Republicans and everything. But we are actively seeing, whether for real or for show or whatever, many Democrats go right at crypto, spearheaded by um, uh, Elizabeth Warren. So,
Yeah.
yeah, what do we got from Checks My Pulse here?
Check says if they stockpile hex, they can stake it and pay off debt with yield. Well, that
There
means
you go.
that means they've got to sell it off too. So unfortunately, you take the good with the
True.
bad. That means they got to buy a lot of it to do that. So
Yeah,
we'll take
yeah,
it as long as they don't dump it all at once.
definitely. Let's transition over to this. So this happened right before we went on the air, and this is phenomenal. And it's funny that we waited this long, but so much news has been happening in the markets over the last couple of days that I just wanted to push it here, especially because it also just came out. But this is very, very good for crypto. This is very, very, very good for Ripple. And it could be very, very good for PulseChain and Richard Hart here coming up in the future. So is it, what do you got? Is that the Ripple chart? Is it the XRP chart?
Yep.
I
Yeah.
was curious about that. Okay.
When I looked earlier, it was like 51 cents. It hadn't done anything.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden it's
Interesting.
just boom in the last. Here, let's look at the last. Let's look at the 15-minute.
I'm going to get a water refill. It's 2 steps away. I'll be right back. Keep talking.
Go for it. Go for it. Yeah. So right before we started, I was looking at the chart and I didn't see a whole lot of action. It looks like it's totally taken off in the meantime. So, but what he was getting to was apparently the courts have ruled in favor of XRP. They've I don't know the final ruling. I'm not sure. You can go ahead and take over on that, because I don't know what the ruling even was. You mentioned it to me. So go ahead.
So it's literally, and this isn't exaggeration or hyperbole or anything, it's the best possible outcome. I mean, unless there's some other dreamed up wet dream scenario, but this isn't a settlement. This isn't a here's what you're going to do or anything like that. The judge essentially 100% sided with Ripple XRP over the SEC. The case is over basically with prejudice. This is their decision. Again, it's not a settlement or anything. I think XRP is ordered to pay. I have to see the exact figure, but I mean, it's fractions of a fraction compared to what the SEC was trying to get from them. And basically it sets a precedent that, like, XRP did basically everything that you could possibly do wrong or be the closest thing to a security in crypto. And they just trounced the SEC from every single angle. And now the case is completely over and the judge has 100% sided with Ripple. So this is a really big deal. I happen to be scrolling Twitter and just kind of looking at some people's opinions of it. And Nuclear Herbs, obviously, our favorite attorney or former attorney within the PulseChain ecosystem that lends a lot of advice when it comes to that dealing with the corrupt SEC. He had some thoughts right after the XRP thing broke, and I thought it was good to read those. So if you want to I did send it to you. You can put it up if you want or not. It's fine. But I'll go ahead and read what he said. He said the court in XRP just issued its final judgment. So again, not a settlement. This is a final judgment. XRP is fined 125 million, far less than the 2 billion sought by the SEC. Okay, so ridiculous. Like I said, again, a fraction. If you recall, the SEC alleged various types of securities violations occurred when Ripple sold XRP, and the court found them to be the wrong on all of the institutional sales. There were no institutional sales of Hex, Pulse, or PulseX, so there's nothing to compare that reasoning directly to in Richard's case. Anyway, Ripple received $728 million for its institutional sales under written contracts for issuing XRP to those investors. That was the only category of sales that the court found to involve securities. Now Ripple is paying $125 million, which nets them a tidy profit of $603 million for this type of sales alone. They obviously get to keep everything from the programmatic and other sales of XRP, roughly another $1.36 billion. The SEC's PR team will spin this as a huge win because that's what they have to do to save face, which politics, I understand that. But if you or I allege a half dozen things against another party, won only one of those claims and got 1/16 of what we were asking for in damages at the end, I'm not sure we'd be thrilled about the outcome. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Ripple is barred from doing any more institutional sales of XRP, which it was never going to do anyway. So I guess technically the SEC won on that issue too. Pop the champagne, guys. It'll be interesting to see if and how this moves forward, or if the parties are just going to accept it and move on, which seems like the choice I'd heavily lean towards, regardless of which side I was on. Anyway, keep this in mind if Richard's case moves forward after the motion to dismiss is decided. Not only was the SEC almost entirely wrong on the law in Ripple, but the court saw their damages request and laughed at it. Anyway, 15 more days and we get to see all the briefing in Richard's case, so we have that to look forward to. So
yeah,
pretty good right up there. Yeah.
That's exciting. 15 more days. I could care less about Ripple, but I mean, it is a nice thing to see, that the judges are starting to wake up to what the SEC is doing and say, no, no, guys, you're not right here. The law says this, and you're saying something different. So, hopefully something, again, what I think what we've always wanted in the beginning, or from the beginning anyway, was just to have them give clarity, right? Set some law, say things that you mean, and with intention, so that people can follow the rules. And if you do that, then you have something to enforce. But when you dodge questions and you don't answer things like a little bitch, then you're gonna have this, right? Is Ethereum a security? Well, we can't say it's a bunch of runaround. They won't answer questions. So again, that's what you get. And I think the judges are finally waking up to this. I'm happy for this. I thought, one of the first things I looked at, like I said, was the price, and it really hadn't done a whole lot. And it might have been like, I'm trying to see what time did we start? 6:30.
Yeah.
So I guess it did run up a little bit earlier this morning.
Okay.
And I guess it started about 3:50 or something like that Eastern time. But yeah, it's kind of evened out. And this will be interesting to watch too. Will it continue to run, or are we going to get that sell off again where the last run up that kind of happened whenever there was good news, it sold right back off. So it'll be interesting to watch that.
A year ago, last summer, whenever XRP won the first stage of this, basically, that was the real big one that came out of nowhere. That it ran up, it did a 2x in a day and then retraced the entire move over the next few weeks. But now this is the nail in the coffin. I mean, this is pretty much it. And as Herbs also said in that about like what either side would do moving forward. I mean, if you're at the SEC at this point, like just go home. Like, obviously pretend that you won the case and everything like that and whatever you're going to do, but it's time to move on. I'm not sure I understand Beyond All's comment here, but how come you call it like the judge sided with XRP? XRP is fine. That means that the SEC suit was disregarding the amount of money they demanded. The SEC won. I think what you're trying to say is just the fact that they did have to pay a fine means the SEC won. But again, I mean, this is kind of like what Nuclear Herbs just said. I mean, I know you're not a baseball fan, Ewok, but the Chicago White Sox, I think, are on a 21-game losing streak right now. They're like 24-80 for the year. It's like they're the worst record in baseball, may end up with the worst regular season record of all time, but they've won 20 games out of like 105 so far. So, yeah, I mean, the SEC kind of won a couple aspects of this lawsuit, but like demonstrably lost compared to what they were asking for. And if that's kind of the negotiating thing. You come to the table asking for completely unrealistic horse shit and wanting all this money. And, you're never allowed, in Richard's case, like you're never allowed to talk about crypto again and all this other crap. You're kind of going to get the bare bones, especially if you just kind of throw a bunch of shit at the wall to see what sticks. But I don't really see overall, though, how you could look at this and think that the SEC won in any way. I mean, Ripple really made off totally fine and, not a lot of harm. Really, what's done more harm to Ripple is the fact that the CEO and the leaders of the whole entity there have been dumping on investors' heads for years. That's really why, it's kind of a loser thing to be in. But anyway, yeah.
So I mean, they were looking to get $2 billion from them, and they only had to pay $125 million. So I would call that a pretty large win.
Yeah. Yeah, I would too, especially, I mean, with how wealthy these guys are and stuff. And again, they've been dumping the tokens anyway, so they've been paying themselves, I mean, it's a total win for them. And I mean, more so, though, I don't really care about this case, though, like you said. I mean, I don't care about it in a vacuum for Ripple's case. I care about it as a precedent for crypto. Obviously, we have invested interest literally in the Richard Hart case, but just for crypto in general. Like if XRP, who again, I mean, the way they went about things wasn't exactly the best way. And if there's anything in crypto that could be a security, it would probably be them. And they won this demonstrably. I mean, that's a great sign. I mean, here we are. We're talking about the Richard Hart case. I mean, we're talking about DeFi. And that does, you brought up what Herbs did about I think it's August 22nd. Yeah, 15 days for Richard's team's response to the SEC's response about the motion to dismiss. So, correct me if I'm wrong. Will we be seeing any elements of that? I think maybe we heard we were going to. We didn't see the SEC's because there could potentially have been sensitive information on there that can't really be made public and stuff like that.
From what I understand, that's not why it wasn't released. The judge basically came right out and said, "I'm not going to release the information until I have both sides." Until it's complete, then I will release it. So we know there were things in there that were, about some privacy, but it had nothing to do with why it wasn't posted. The judge basically said, I'm going to wait for both responses before anything gets put out there. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
I would want to too, honestly. So yeah, why not? I would want to have both of them. So, overall, this Ripple thing, huge for crypto, definitely huge for the upcoming Richard Hart case and everything. But again, and Nuclear Herbs emphasized it in that tweet, if the motion to dismiss, if we go past that even, I mean, if it all ends right there, I mean, we're good to go after that. So,
yeah, Bitfinesse, I agree. It's if XRP isn't a security, I don't know that really any token is. I mean, he says then neither is Apple,
right?
But essentially, he's being facetious there. But
still,
what token, like especially something that has no founder, has no headquarters, has no employees, has no a lot of things, right? That's one of the things that makes a token a security, when you have a centralized entity in charge of things, making calls. And if XRP isn't, because it really defines a lot of all of that stuff, and they found it not to be, it's very good for the rest of everything, essentially. So
right. Super Snake. Afternoon, gentlemen. I see a lot of blood on the PulseChain. Curious if we see new all-time low for Pulse within the coming weeks. Would this shake you out? Well, no. I mean, without a doubt, no. But if you do want our thoughts on that, we did talk about it right at the top of the show, probably about 15 minutes in. If you want to see what our thoughts were on the recent Pulse price, but I think I can speak for Ewok that no, neither one of us are going to be shaken out by that. So, I mean, we're right there. I mean, all it takes is maybe a 5% drop and it's a new all-time low. So, I mean, maybe 10, I don't know. Maybe a little more than that, but yeah, I mean, we're pretty much there. I mean, we're so close to being there. We even were when it was over, 4 zeros and a 4. I still would have pretty much called it a double bottom, and we had been calling it one. So
Yeah.
we're still here. Yep.
It just means buy more.
Yep.
It's what, a third of sacrifice rate.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sounds
it's
good
on
to me.
sale. I think it's still one of the most undervalued tokens that are out there. For what we have going on, for what's built already, a little over a year. I think this is so undervalued that, there's just so many shit posters out there that talk a bunch of smack, that don't understand the value that is here, and what it could do. So yeah, a third it's a hell of a deal.
Yeah. We think so anyway. And I'll be buying as soon as we get off the air tonight. So, or maybe even while we're still on the air, depending upon if I can
Do it now.
do it in the background here. I'll tell you what, let's finish off with this. And I will say, I don't really care about this topic all that much. I don't think you probably do either, Ewok, but I know it got people riled up over the last week. I figured if we got to it at the end, that we can go ahead and hit it. So we might as well. I think it's kind of drifting into the background now, as stories in crypto do a lot of times. But so we had Hex OG Kareem was jailed. I don't remember what country it is. Do you know what country it is that he's in?
Turks and Caicos.
What is that?
It's Turks and Caicos.
Oh, okay.
One of the Caribbean islands.
Yeah. So apparently he had some kind of ammo on him of some sort. Again, obviously foreign country. He has been a well-known Hex OG. I mean, he was in the movie. I think had some involvement in the movie and stuff. I mean, you would know more about him than I would. But he has that doxed wallet, like the Dream wallet or whatever.
Yeah.
He, out of many, and, I mean, I understand at this time, but he was dunking on the rest of the crypto world at the top of Hex a few years ago and everything. And unfortunately made this mistake. And now, obviously, Maddie Allen has started I don't know what he did. I think I don't know if it was like an address to start sending to donate to try to get him out of there. I don't know how much the bond was, like how much they needed. I think I saw like $15,000 or something like that. Richard Hart, surprisingly, even retweeted this, which I was surprised a bit about. But maybe you can add some detail into that. That's not the part I care as much about. But Maddie kind of attached himself to it by trying to raise some funds for Kareem. Which is fine, but then some people that start to disagree with him. I saw like some debates with Maddie and these folks on Twitter and stuff like that. It's an interesting thing. There's obviously people that are up in arms, like, how dare you are going to come asking me for money when I've been invested in this thing for like 4 years. EHEX is down 99%. Pulse isn't doing what I wanted it to so far. And this guy who's been out here like flaunting his lifestyle and everything like that, who made a dumb mistake. This is me just saying what people are saying. You're wanting me, who's got nothing basically to contribute in some way. And then there's others that are like, hey, if you don't want to contribute, don't contribute. I mean, if you want to, you can. I see both sides, honestly. I would not be inclined necessarily to contribute. I mean, I think it's up to each individual, but I mean, if it sucks. It is definitely a shitty circumstance. I mean, I do feel bad for the guy that this happened, but it also seems like a mistake that he made. But it sounds like he has resources. He definitely has friends out there looking out for him. He doesn't need me. There's this other dude that's been tweeting about it and coordinating it, and I think that's the tweet that Richard Hart might have retweeted. But what do you make of all this? I'm honestly a little bit more interested in like the backlash specifically that Maddie is getting, because there's been a lot of things that he has done where it seems as if he's asking for money or has a new project or something like that, and people have started to call him a scammer, and he calls the Tang Gang scammers, and it's scammer. I don't know if he's ever called the Tang Gang scammers. I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but I know he's been going out of his way to engage with them in a not so friendly way lately. So anyway, yeah, what do you make of this whole thing? Again, these are the dumb distractions I don't really care too much about, but I know people got heated over it over the last week, and it's an interesting story.
So I think there's a couple ways to spin this. I don't think Maddie was asking for money. Maddie just kind of reposted. Maddie just put it out there for people, and again, people get panties in a bunch because, hey, here's Maddie asking people to donate to something, right? I'm kind of the same way you are, man. When you do something on your own accord, and the reason I knew it was Turks and Caicos, I heard this. It was on the news a few months ago. Well, there was a guy down there who did the same thing, only he had like 1 or 2 shotgun shells that was in his one backpack or something like that. Threw him in there. He was in there for like 6 months, literally 6 months. So they're very, very particular with that type of thing.
Right.
I find it crazy that many people travel with ammo in their bag. Like, you know, you're not going to travel with a gun, especially, you know, in a carry-on or whatever that's going to get searched. Like, it's just, you don't do that. And I find it weird. Anyway, my point is, when you do something personal and you make a mistake, I don't see where it has anything to do with crypto. So I'm very hesitant to give somebody money because they made a mistake, right? If we gave everybody money that made a mistake, we'd all be broke.
Right.
So that's where I'm at with that. On the other hand, he does have a dream wallet that he made very public, and at one point there was $180 million in there, I believe, at the height of the market. I know most everything is 5555. I know most of it is staked out 15 years. And if he was to emergency end stake, well, he wouldn't end up with very much. But you know, sometimes that's the consequences of making mistakes, right? You kind of did that to yourself. So
Well, you
there's
also
that.
set up all the 15-year stakes too. I mean, not only the mistake of what happened where he is, but
Well,
also that there's all these
yes.
5555s, you know?
Yes, exactly. And the other thing was there for many, 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 many months. He was going out in Miami every night, every weekend, being big baller at some of these clubs, paying for the private room and the special service and that type of thing. So he was flaunting it. Now, was he sharing the wealth with others? I think he was, but not very many people. Like, I mean, I don't know. I never got to go, so you know, it. Again, it's a touchy situation, right? And I feel that Maddie relies on being a vocal piece for this community, right? He tries to get news out there. He tries to get word out for whatever cause it might be. And you know, sometimes he attaches himself to negativity or just the unfortunately there's not always a positive side to everything that gets done. And rather than just not participate, there are going to be those people that complain about it. So arguing with them is probably the last thing you want to do. Again, I'm the type of person whereas if I don't like it or I don't like what's on TV, I'm going to turn the channel, right?
Yeah.
I'm not one to make a big deal and argue with people online just because I don't agree with their opinion. Occasionally, whatever, I may say something, but I'm not going to make a big deal about it. So I think that's where Manny kind of faltered a little bit. Is he started arguing with people that didn't agree with what he was doing or blocking people or whatever, and that's his right. He can freely do that. Like, I have nothing wrong with somebody's going to try and blow you up and talk shit on you, block them, whatever. That's perfectly his decision and his right to do. So I don't know. I don't know the name was like Yoon Anderson or something like that. The guy that was also there, and I think Kareem was helping him build houses. They had this
I saw that, yeah.
company or construction company, whatever they're doing, where they were building houses, and Kareem was working for him. So you know, he is at least working or was at least working. I know he had retired on crypto, and you know how I feel about that. People that do that when they retire on crypto are just basically permanent dumpers. So I was kind of glad to see that he was working, but he made a bad choice. So again, my thought is when you make a bad personal decision, you kind of have to suffer the consequences, and it shouldn't be everybody else's responsibility. Now, Kareem may have had a lot of friends who did want to support it, and I know some of the funds that they were taking, people said, well, I'm not going to give it to you, but I'll loan it to you. So the problem with that part of it is, now we're getting into the best part of the cycle to buy, and you're going to maybe give USD that could have done what in the meantime till that money gets paid back, right? That's a risk that you're going to have to take if you want to help or loan money or whatever. So it's just very bad timing all around. And I don't know. I hate to see people asking for money in the first place. I get when there are people that need genuine help, which maybe he does, but at the cost of what, and because he got hacked. No, it wasn't because he got hacked. It wasn't anything like that. It was because he made a bad choice. So
yeah,
that's kind of where I stand. I just choose not to. I chose not to donate, and but I'm not going to talk badly about it either. That's kind of where I'm at.
That's where I am too. And I guess if I had any feedback, I guess, to try to make it positive for, not that he cares, will watch this stream or anything ever. But if I had any feedback for like Maddie, I would say that if people comment on your posts where, you simply provide the address, say, hey, I kicked over $500. If you want to do it, go ahead. If you don't. And then you get blasted and flamed by a bunch of people in the comments that are calling you a scammer and you're always out asking for money. Ignore them. I don't engage with them. I wouldn't retweet what they say and get in arguments with them and stuff like that. And, I don't know what is going on with Maddie to get him into that kind of territory. I think he did that with some of them, but I would just say, just ignore those people. Or I think he started turning off comments too, which I would probably just do that. But yeah, I don't see why engaging, it's kind of like what you and I are saying right now. I just turn the channel, don't engage with it. So, yeah, that stuff's going to happen. You have to deal with those consequences, if you're going to be that a face out there, I think. So that's just kind of how it is. But
for sure.
Anyway, yeah, I pretty much side with you on all that. I think that pretty much wraps us up. Did you have any final thoughts for anything tonight?
Yeah, let's take a look at this real quick. Two-way.
Yeah.
Get her done, folks, if you're doing anything on Ethereum.
I'm going to be bridging in a few minutes, and I think it's going to cost me $1.
Yeah, well, it shot up to, what was it the other day? 250?
Tried over double that, 580.
Okay.
580 Gwei on Sunday night when all that shit was happening.
Yeah.
When we've been seeing these single-digit numbers for so long now, it was just like, oh my God, like I know it's because of this volatility right now, but just remember that these kind of things can happen on ETH,
That was the reason I wanted to bring this up. Remember what can happen in an instant when it goes from 2 to 500 and you can't afford to transact or do anything. I think that is when we're going to see PulseChain really start to take off. So get some money over there, get it bridged over, and be ready for when it happens. Because if you don't, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. I just hope you have a way in, and maybe by then Coast will be up and you can onboard right into PulseChain. And
to your point too, I had a follow up on that. Oh yeah, like when you just said like you won't be able to do anything on ETH, that is a literal statement. I mean, the cost to even send anything on ETH that night
$50.
Yeah, probably. To send something.
Yeah.
So like you're just, for that time period, you're screwed. You're not getting out, So obviously in the bull market, you hope that maybe you're tapering out of positions and you can sell when Gwei's a little bit lower here and there. And it's not like you're going to, traditionally, if you're a smart investor, you're not running for the exits or the entries when everybody else is, because that means you are everybody else. So,
but just for reference, when Gwei is 500, I think it's at least $500 or $600 to trade.
Definitely hundreds. Yeah.
But it's very close to the Gwei. Like, I think in order to do a Uniswap trade, it's very close to the Gwei, like the cost.
Jeez.
Yeah.
It's definitely in the hundreds. Yeah, I know for sure. So. Yeah. Meanwhile, PulseChain, I think the highest maybe I paid 15 cents for something once. I'm not sure. That might be the highest, maybe 10. Yeah. So just a reminder of where that can be. But yeah, we are at 1 or 2 Gwei right now. So if you want to do anything on there, definitely get it done, as Ewok said. So
yep. And so like right now, Gwei is 2 Gwei. It is between $3 and $5 to swap.
Yeah.
So it stays with the Gwei. Like, it's very close to that. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, mine it actually says 167 to swap right now to me.
I'm on Etherscan page.
Yeah, so
I'm not sure.
I don't know. Maybe they have multiple, I think. But yeah, it says bridging 54 cents. It's usually double what that says. And swap about $1.50, $2 or something like that. So pretty insane if you want to get anything done on ETH right now, for sure. So shout out to everybody in the chat tonight. This has been an awesome chat. Checks my pulse. You're always in here. What is that? What are you saying?
No,
I thought you were.
I was shouting out to all the people in the chat. Yeah, I was like, yeah, we had a hell of a chat.
DJ Moonboy, Bitfinesse, Johnny Chaos was in here earlier. Fast Abdul, we always appreciate you, man. DeFi Gardener, Super Snake, Beyond All, Valiant Low Key was back in here again. Jake, take a break with Jake. I'm gonna say Jake the Snake. Appreciate you producing the show tonight. Pulse Life, and a lot of others. Cody Pauly. Thank you guys so much. We do this every single Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I know, again, like we said earlier, like getting a chance to commiserate like this, talk whenever the markets are doing certain things. That's what we're here for. So keep your nose to the grindstone, and maybe think about that thing I talked about earlier tonight, because it's been helping me, this idea of income independence, and try not to be so tied to, I got to have this amount of money, this amount of X's by this date. It's been helping my mindset a little bit anyway. So we will be here next week, right, Ewok? It's the following one where we're on
the 14th. We're good to go.
Okay, so we will be back here next Wednesday night, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Good seeing all you guys. This has been Boi Crypto for Crypto Ewok right here on the Creed of Crypto live stream. See you guys.